Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm none other than your host, Johny Anonymous. I apologize for the lack of editing on this episode, even though it is our first episode. I am sitting in my bedroom here, and my computer is already packed. I am heading to the west coast from Ontario, about 3,000 kilometers away, to start this epic adventure that we're on. And that was the whole point of us starting this podcast. One of the things that you can count on this podcast is that we will be talking about addiction on the regular and mental illness. And I encourage any of you to get involved and leave your comments, get a hold of us. If you anything that you guys want to share, by all means, leave your comments or get a hold of us, and one of our production crew or myself will be available to answer those questions, or we could even set up a recording sometime, because we are traveling across Canada, and we do plan on meeting a lot of the people that are our guests. So we are setting out to shoot a documentary called Addicted to Addiction, and it's basically covering the span of the entire country. Everybody knows that Vancouver is in the middle of basically a war zone when it comes to fentanyl and opioid overdoses. Some of the things that the rest of the country doesn't know is that it's actually spread right across the country, and it's no longer in the cities, it's making its way into the suburbs, and it's killing kids. They are finding fentanyl inside pot, and kids are overdosing from opioids from smoking marijuana. We want to follow that story right back to Toronto and all the way to the East Coast into Nova Scotia and places like Prince Edward Island. I will be traveling with a very small crew, and our production crew is available all the time, so our social media will be very active. We will be launching a crowdfunding campaign, and we cannot do it without your support. So you guys, we're asking for your support. Get your friends and family involved. Addiction affects us all. We all know somebody who has mental illness, has suffered from addiction or alcoholism. Literally, every single one of us. So it's very important, this issue. So get involved, stand up and join the movement. You can find out a little bit more at www.endthestigmamovement.com. I'll post some links with this video, and you guys can click on them. We're basically launching a YouTube channel. We want to engage our audience as much as we can in this documentary. Maybe there's some things that we're missing. Maybe there's some things that you want to share in this documentary. Maybe you know somebody who wants to share something in this documentary. So by all means, leave comments below. Get involved as much as you want. Any questions? There's no questions that will go unanswered. So we totally are looking forward. We thought this would be a very interactive way to shoot this documentary, and as we travel around, it'll give you guys a little bit of a insight as to where we are with the doc. And we're going to be meeting up with some really cool people. Once we land in Vancouver, we're going to be meeting up with Dr. Gabor Mate, and best-selling author in the realm of Hungry Ghosts. He's got 30 plus years of experience dealing with addiction in the Lower East Side Hastings of Vancouver. One of the top doctors in the world. So what's next here? Some of the topics that we're going to be talking about are NA, Narcotics Anonymous. We're going to be talking about Alcoholics Anonymous, and we're also going to be talking about smart recovery. And this is not to pick apart your fellowship. This has nothing to do with destroying or dragging it against your traditions into the media. We're going to be talking with people in NA and why it works for them, and people in the fellowship who it didn't work for, and we're going to be comparing the two fellowships against each other, because there seems to be this sort of rivalry between the two, this sort of unspoken rivalry, and then we're going to be comparing and looking at smart recovery and why smart recovery works for those people. And then, there's also people who do it all. And we just wanted to bring that forward to you, and it's also part of our documentary. And if you have any questions or comments about that, I have a feeling that this is going to start a little bit of a digital war. I understand that some people are going to be extremely upset with us, because I do understand that it goes against some of your traditions. And I don't know what to say. This is what we're doing, and it's a bit bigger than you. It's nothing personal. It's just we're doing this video for the people, and I can't please everybody. And my production crew, we've sat and we've talked about this many times over. This is just something that we have to do. And again, we're not trying to drag anybody into the media, but we are going to do a thorough investigation as part of our documentary, and that's just where it is. So there's going to be a lot of topics that we will be covering that are very controversial. We're going to be going into things like sex, music, drugs. As much as YouTube is going to allow us to post that, those are the things that we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about how music influences behaviors. We're going to be talking about genetics. We're going to be talking about epigenetics, neurogenesis, neuroplasticity, rewiring the brain, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectual behavioral therapy. And we're going to be meeting with some of the best clinicians from around the country. And we're also going to be going to Switzerland and looking at the 4 pillars approach of where the Vancouver model that we have now was sort of adopted from the Swiss, and how they've adopted the 4 pillars approach, and they kind of created their own. And then we're going to be looking at safe injection facilities, and we're going to be looking at needle exchange programs. And our sole purpose is to end the stigma that surrounds addiction. We need to change the way we talk about addiction. We need to change the way we view addiction. We need to change the way we treat addicts. Plain and simple. Grow up and start treating addicts with empathy, compassion, and care. There is certain trilateral pathology effects going on inside the brain and the psyche, and then deep inside the DNA there's mutations that are happening once you're a chronic addict, as well as the physical attributes of going through withdrawal. So it's a trilateral effect, and it really fucks you up, and especially when you get into things like fentanyl and heroin. Cocaine can as well. Cocaine does some serious long-term damage. And then we're going to be talking about different drugs. We're going to be talking about all the different drugs and the effects. I'm going to be bringing in all kinds of different special guests. And lastly, we're going to be looking at holistic approaches to recovery. Vancouver seems to be killing the way. There are some amazing recovery centers down there. There are some spiritual centers down there that I just can't wait to explore. I just can't wait to get down there and interview them. And then we're going to be looking at some really non-traditional forms of recovery, like using psychedelics like ayahuasca, dimethyltryptamine, which is found deep inside the jungle. It is not orally active as a DMT. Your stomach breaks it down to enzymes. However, this tribe has figured out over years. I can't even wrap my head around how they migrate to find these leaves. These leaves contain a substance called MAOIs, monoamine oxidase inhibitors. You mix the two together, you make a tea, and it sends you on a profound trip. And a lot of people say they found God, or a God, or Mother Ayahuasca. So, if you're interested in learning about Mother Ayahuasca, which I am, and some shamans, and you want to cleanse your spirits, and you want to cleanse your soul, maybe hold on for this journey, because I promise you, we are going from one side of Canada to the other to find a cure for addiction, if there is one. And there's also some really interesting research being done around vaccines. And there are some scientists who have claimed to create some really interesting vaccines that basically render caffeine, cocaine, and heroin useless in the body. And then this opens up a whole nother debate, is that ethical? Because if you take the vaccine and 10 years down the road you get into a car accident and you actually need the opioids for pain relief, then you no longer can use pain relief medication. And also if you give the vaccines to your children and it turns out they need it years later, you no longer can help them. So it opens up a whole new world of debate. I'm just really excited to get going on this journey. I am literally 24 hours away from catching a flight out to Vancouver. I'm going to land my feet on the ground. I'm going to spend a day on the mountains, a day in the ocean, and get right to work. You guys probably won't hear from me for a little while. It's going to take me a couple weeks to get my bearings together, start laying out some shoots, some interviews, and get down with my script writing. And I will try to get back to you guys a couple times during my first couple weeks. But other than that, leave your comments below. I want to hear from you guys. Leave your comments, leave your questions, any topics that you guys want to see covered, and we'll do our best to dig it up. I have a wicked, fascinating research team. I've got great editors, great producers. I've got guys that are well over 30, 40 years in the industry that are behind the scenes pushing me and giving me the motivation. And I cannot do it without you guys. My fans are the ones that push me to do this. You guys are the ones that give me the inspiration, and I'm just really looking forward to this next year. So hang on. I'm Johny Anonymous from the Johny Anonymous podcast. Peace.